the journey of a Warrior fan when you first hear that Chris Paul is going to be on the team to where we are now in terms of acceptance of him before he's even played a game? What's been the evolution of that for you?
Okay, I got to be careful here because the Warriors, they built something. They built a dynasty. They earned it brick by brick. And Chris Paul, I know he's a great player, people, but he's yearning for a ring, what the Warriors have. And to me, it just didn't, like my shoes in my drawer, they didn't match because he's looking to get to the mountaintop, and his brand is so big, and I didn't know if that was cohesive. Like, the Warriors have already got what he's trying to get, and now I feel like because he's such a big personality, will the big personality be bigger than the basketball, the right basketball decision is somehow he wouldn't be the benefit from that. So that's why I'm looking at it. You know, I'm going to watch it play out. But just naturally, he's been the enemy. The Warriors have won. What is he going to tell this team about winning rings? You don't have any bling. But you can tell him a whole lot of other stuff about basketball, so we'll watch it play out.
Why you laugh?
It's just Guru has a way with words, man. Come on. That deserves a rat. Give me a rat on the counter. That deserves a rat. Guru Irish spitting fire. Well, yeah,
you going to finish it?
Yeah, all right. I thought Guru was going to finish.
I'll finish it.
Go ahead, finish it.
Well,
you start.
Like, I hear what you're saying. He's a selfless player by design. Like, that's how he wants to play the game. It would be one thing if he was coming and gunning, like he was James Harden, and it was going to be dribble, dribble, dribble. I'm going to only take the shot. It's me. It's Russell Westbrook. It's not. This guy wants to share the ball. Steph and Clay want to come off screens.
Right.
Wiggins is not a guy, give me the ball, get out of my way. So he's entering a team that already likes to share the ball and play without the basketball.
Right.
So I think stylistically, offensively, I think it's a great fit.
Especially when you go from Jordan Poole, who was exactly as you were describing. And Jordan Poole's a great player, and he's going to average 28 in D.C., but he is dribble, dribble, dribble.
Exactly.
How can I get a bucket for myself? Chris Paul's going to go out there and play like Jason Kidd did late in his year. Late in his career, 12 assists and maybe 1 for 3 from the floor. Chris Paul might lead the league in assists based on playing with these guys.
But Guru, I don't want to speak for you, but my perception of what you're saying, because I do feel some of it, is very little to do with selfishness on the court, and it has much more to do with when things get difficult, locker room, on the bench, and sure, if it's who's starting and who's finishing. We know who Chris Paul has been through the years as an NBA teammate, and that role is not all that available here. Like, the guy that comes in, takes over the locker room, is a huge, huge voice, is someone who will hold people very accountable, maybe even sometimes to a negative level. I don't think any of those things are bad, but it's hard to imagine him as the alpha in the room on this particular squad. I think that's what you're saying, and I feel that. Okay. I get that.
And let me just give you this little antidote. The you coaching, that everybody laughed and that was funny, but there was some truth to that. And then Steve Kerr going out his way, Dibs and Steiny, 6 starters. Like, I felt like you were placating to that. Like, okay, everybody can technically have 6 starters, but that was like, what are we doing here? Play the best 5.
The ego
he was supposed to come off the
important.
bench. He was supposed to run the second team, I thought.
Well, he should be placated.
That's what I'm saying.
Essentially, it was a placation sensation.
Exactly.
Is what it was, Joe.
My question is why?
Thank you. Because he's never come off the bench in his whole career. So you at least give him a chance to start, and then if it doesn't work, then you pull him aside. But because of the Draymond injury, we may not know if Draymond's going to be ready or not.
I don't get that. I want to ask that. Why would you placate him upon arrival? Why?
Because you
need him.
Thank you.
Because you need him. You need his leadership.
You need all of them.
Let me tell you what happened last year.
Talk to us.
The whole, Curry's a leader in his own kind of way, and Draymond's the heart and soul, and Clay. No, that myth came to an end last year, as far as I'm concerned. One of the reasons Chris Paul's here is it's going to take away a little of Draymond's voice. I firmly believe that. Because I absolutely think they need Chris Paul to lead this team because it doesn't come naturally to any of the three right now, and it really matters because they're not in their primes right now.
Okay, that's an interesting statement. You're reacting to that.
Yeah,
What's your thought
I
there?
think Steiny's on fire with that one. And look, not only do they need this leadership, but that second unit suffered last year. How many times did the Warriors get a lead? That second unit comes in, they blow the lead, give it right back. These guys are too old to continue to build 10 to 15-point leads. They don't have those 20-2 blitzes in them like they used to have in 2015, 16, 17, 18. So I'm looking forward to Chris Paul. Not only the starting thing is overblown, I think that's going to be overblown. And we're going to be talking about the finishing lineup throughout the season. Who's not in the finishing lineup? And I heard something that Steiny said earlier I want to get to. I think it's very fascinating. But what he's going to do to unlock Kuminga and play with Sarge and opposite of Wiggins, I think that's where you need him because quietly they've missed Sean Livingston, the stabilizer in that second unit alongside Andre Iguodala.
But I agree with that, but isn't that saying that you want him on the second unit more than the first?
No, he's going to play with everybody.
Of course he is.
We're focused on the wrong thing.
It's not a line change.
Of course it
You're
is.
blending lineups.
But what Goo is trying to talk about is how Chris will handle things if they're thrown at him a different way than they have previous in his career. And Steiny, when you say they need him, I think that's a fascinating statement, the idea that Draymond's voice needs to be lessened a little bit.
Yeah.
But does that have anything to do with being in the starting lineup? Does that have anything to do with every night being in the finishing lineup?
All right. So, I don't really like fluff, and I don't like stories in the summer but clearly Chris Paul was taken by surprise to be a member of the Golden State Warriors.
Feels that way.
And it took him a while, a few weeks to adjust. But everything I've heard is he has immersed himself into the organization, not just with the veterans, but with the young players. All that kind of stuff, and usually I roll my eyes at that stuff. But I do know this. When I look at Chris Paul on this team, I think he is far more the solution than the problem. If you have to list the Golden State Warriors' problems or what you're most worried about, health off the board. That's everybody's number one. Yeah. Then what is it?
I think it's playmaking in the half court with 6 minutes to go. Go back to Clay had the ball in his hands, and he's forced into being a playmaker. Yep. That did them in at long stretches of the Kings series, and it ended up being horrible in the Lakers series. We could talk about Anthony Davis. No one's guarding Anthony Davis. He's a very difficult guard. They have lost in the finals because they have failed to execute in the half court. Whatever game you want to pick in the playoffs, they lost this year. They needed a second ball handler. We thought Jordan Poole, when he was good, provided that in the Memphis series the year prior. And then he got kind of played out of the Celtics series, and they relied on just Steph. They need a second ball handler to be able to take it off of Steph Curry's hands time to time. I think we're way too into the emotions and not into the X's and O's. Yeah. Defense is overrated. Wow. They've got stoppers on defense. Wiggins can stop someone. Draymond can stop someone. Looney, if need be, can stop. GP2. They needed a playmaker in the half court.
But you're talking about a finishing lineup, and if it's Chris Paul and Steph, and you're going up against Denver, and they've got 3 7-footers.
It's matchups.
I don't know.
Well, so matchup-based
matchups.
That's why something Steiny said today was very fascinating. Steiny mentioned Klay Thompson, and we know how polarizing Klay Thompson is around here. He's entering the contract year. We don't know if he's going to be a Warrior forever. He may want 30, 35 million. But Steiny said something that rang very true. And I go back to when he came back. Steiny said that Kurt is going to find a way to play Klay. And I fully subscribe to that because when Klay was working himself back, they had the built-in excuse to not start Klay Thompson because they wanted to manage his ego. And so they went with Jordan Poole to come off the bench despite them getting off to an 18-2 start. It would have been easy to say, hey, Klay, you've had 2.5 years of rehab. Just ease into it here. But instead, they knew the psyche of Klay, and they inserted him into the starting lineup. I say all that to say, if he's on the bench in the final 5 minutes, and if they're not winning, that's where the moping begins. Draymond's already hinted at it. We don't know how Chris Paul will react to that. If Klay's not in the lineup in the final 5 minutes, forget the starting lineups. And, hey, number 11, Klay Thompson out of Washington State. That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Who's on the floor in the last 5 minutes, and are they winning?
Yes.
Because that can determine a lot.
Yes, sir.
This is an interesting topic because
that's right on the money.
If you're talking about Klay Thompson, and you tell me if this is not the word that you would use, but if the ego is a little bit fragile or touchy, whatever it is, and now you're adding in a contract situation that is unsettled. So what does that mean for him this year and how that's going to look?
Well, that's a fascinating thing. What does it mean? Does it mean he presses and starts chucking up shots and getting his 22 field goal attempts and not playing within the offense? Does that mean he doesn't really care on defense? I don't know what it means, Mark. What does it mean for Chris Paul, who, yes, he was stunned on coming to the Golden State Warriors. He had his mindset on the Clippers. Oh, there's a point guard job available. I go back down to Southern California. I get to start again. Oh, wait, I have to go to the Warriors. So that's what that means. How does his performance get affected by it? We shall see.
Don't you think he's going to get better looks in the half court with Chris Paul and Steph Curry playing in the backcourt?
Butch, I'm not mad at that, but I'm so damn tired of people telling me Chris Paul is going to change everybody else's diapers.
No, he's going to make
Chris Paul can't change his own diapers. What are you bringing to the table offensively? Quit selling me on who he's going to pass the ball to, because there's going to be there's going to be times, Butch, if you watch, where he's going to have to score, and that's what I'm watching him take a step back. Mark, it ain't going to just be, I'm going to pass it to anybody. What if you got to get a bucket?
Well, he shot 38% from three last year.
Because the guy that's not on this team
he can hit a
that
shot.
You guys ran out of town is Jordan Poole.
He shot 29%.
And that's who we need to be. Who's going to replace
Poole
those
shot 29% last year. That's the Russell Westbrook zone.
Oh, he's going to pass it and unlock Kuminga. Kuminga can unlock himself.
No, I don't know about that yet. We didn't see that yet.
He's 21. He's 21, Go.
21.
And he's 72 now.
21.
I mean, I hear where you're coming from, but if you go back 2 years ago, if you ask an NBA exec, why did the Warriors suddenly rebirth themselves and win a championship? And I think most of those executives will argue because there was a surprise season from Jordan Poole. A player step forward for sure. There's a bunch of reasons.
Wiggins in the playoffs
huge.
was
it was all of it. But you're talking about all season long. Who gave you stuff that you absolutely didn't see coming? You could argue Wiggins, but Jordan Poole broke out.
Yeah.
I think this year is very similar. Someone's going to need to break out, and we all know who the candidate is. It has to be Jonathan Kuminga. If they're going to win a title this year, he's got to be amazing. He's got to be amazing this year.
He's their one athlete outside of Wiggins.
No doubt.
I mean, they don't have a lot of athleticism.
No. If Steve Kerr told us this week that the three athletes that he's counting on, GP2, Kuminga, and Wiggins.
There you go.
I think Wiggins is the key. And if he plays with force, as Steve told us earlier in the week, as he did in 22 when they won the championship, he played with force. We had the K-Wig bit during our 51 weeks together.
He put it to rest.
That bit, he put that bit to rest.